Hey, hey, hey. Good evening once again, and welcome to the Red and Blue Review. My name is Nick Philpott. I'm your host this evening, and together with this fantastic panel we have this evening, we're going to be chewing the cud over yesterday's squeaky bum win against Southampton at Selhurst Park. First of all, it'd be remiss of me not to say good evening, gentlemen. Starting off with the ledge. Good evening, James. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. And you?
I'm all right, mate. Listen, on behalf of everybody on Red and Blue Review, are you scared after meeting Tim Richards yesterday?
No, he looks the same in real life as he does on the screen. So
yeah. You do realise he probably followed you home, and he's actually probably standing behind that door behind you, didn't you?
Well, in fact, I took him upstairs to Malcolm Allison's suite, and I said I'd be back up because I've got lots of things to do. And I went up about 25 minutes before kickoff, 20 minutes before kickoff, and he disappeared. So he must have gone to find his seat.
It's because he's in the boot of your car, mate. That's why. Ian Noble, how you doing, mate?
Evening, Nick. Yeah, evening, everyone. I'm all right. Got a bit of a sore throat, a bit of a cold. I think the sore throat was exacerbated by me shouting at that lino yesterday, who really wasn't very good at all on our side of the pitch by the main stand. But there we are.
And the referee in the first half weren't much better, but we'll come to that, of course. And welcome back for his second appearance, Criss Lehman from One More Point fanzine. How you doing, Chris?
Very good. Really enjoyed yesterday afternoon, and made for a nice weekend. Happy to be here.
I'll tell you now, that is one long trip down from Hull. What time did you get back last night?
Just gone 11 o'clock, and the joys of an electric car, so a bit of charging up at Peterborough to get home, but always a much nicer trip when you've won. So win more than we lose in the last year or so.
Absolutely. We've got lots coming up in tonight's show, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be talking about our predictions league in a second. But we've got quite a few things to talk about. But one thing, I've got a question for you all. Can one of you please explain to me why at the end of the game yesterday, on the way home, after, as Chris just said, bagging the 3 points, my mobile phone updates for my Man United season ticket for November the 30th. What are they doing? What are the ticket office doing? What is that all about?
I don't think anyone knows, Nick. It's a strange one, isn't it? This electronic season ticket. All I will say is don't worry about it, because by the time the next game comes round, which is Fulham, it will be correct on your phone.
Just bizarre. I just don't. It's as though the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. I'm missing. Ian, can you see the chat? Because
I can just about. Yeah, not terribly well, but I can see it. Yeah,
I'm missing that on some of the comments that are coming through. So where should we start? I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll start off with, I just need to say a quick thank you to John Knox. I met John again in the Clifton before kickoff yesterday. For those of you who remember, Joel Holyoke, who will be back, by the way, he's now on holiday. He's going to Cape Verde this week. 2 years ago, Joel took out something like, I think it was 200 old Palace tops and gave them out to underprivileged children out in Cape Verde, along with pens, pencils, books, and everything else. Well, that exercise that he carried out went down fantastically well. John Knox very kindly came up to me before the game yesterday with a bag full of old training tops, old Palace training tops that Joel's taken out to Cape Verde on Thursday this week. So, John, on behalf of us all, thank you very much. Hopefully, we'll have plenty of time during the evening to take the piss out of James Ward-Prowse, who had a crap game yesterday, didn't get on the score sheet, didn't put Wilf in his pocket. So make sure you fill your boots on that, boys, this evening, because I can't stand the bloke. Okay, out of all the opposition players we play against, he's one of them. He's right up on the top of the list. I want to talk about the ladies' fantastic win at Durham away today, because that moves them back up to fourth. But I think we're going to start the show on a little bit of a somber note, if you like. I would like to echo everybody's views on Sido. Now, Chris Walters, known as Sideburns, there he was, sadly passed away.
Clive.
Say again?
Clive.
What did I say?
Chris.
Did I say Chris? I do, but
I'm still here.
Yeah, thankfully. And I think it's fair to say that both the HF and the club put on some great tributes to the guy. There was, even on the team sheet, I don't know if you guys noticed it, on the back of the programme, the team sheet, his name's added to the team sheet right at the very bottom. I thought it was a lovely touch. Great early 70 a minute round of applause, very well executed, and I thought it was really great to see. Criss, I understand you actually you had the pleasure.
Yeah, many times. So for 10 years, I used to stand on the same corner as Sideburns, out, on the top of the Holmesdale and Park Road there, and I'd be non-stop shouting 75 minutes non-stop. 1 more point, £1 your fanzine, and all he'd have to do is just go programmed. It's just that, just the way he did it, and they'd all come flocking to the point I even dedicated when I did the 1 more point book during lockdown. One of the chapters, Sideburns Legend. That's the heading of the chapter, just saying about the impact he had, if you like. The mere fact that away fans would recognise him as well. And people don't often know that he did Cheltenham Wimbledon games as well in the ground share days. So he was known to a lot of away fans. They'd see him twice a year, and they'd always make a beeline for him. He was programme seller as a go. I'm not sure if any club had a programme seller as famous as him. So yeah, it's always good banter. Me and him, he'd always win, of course. But I understand his time, and he was also a Kent fan as well, cricket fan.
I understand he was a man of very few words, but his humour was extreme. Is that right? Criss,
yes,
can you hear me?
he did, and everyone would give it do the mimic of him, his voice, program, and he'd just give a little look like you cheat your so and so. But the humour was there. He had that, and again, the away fans would always give banter, and he's very distinctive look, wasn't he? Sideburns were a thing in the 70s, if you like. He was maybe a bit of a throwback character, but he always took it on board, and very knowledgeable by all accounts on football. People who did know him well said his knowledge was phenomenal. He knew his stuff. Ian,
did you ever meet him?
Yeah, I met him a few times. I bought programmes of him a few times, of course, home games. I remember one occasion, story I can tell you, did Torquay away in the League Cup midweek. I think obviously a second round tie, and went down there. I got to the ground quite late because we'd been in a pub sort of thing, and I missed out on getting a programme because they'd sold out basically. So I'll see Sideburns in the ground, and he had 10 of them. And he was very loyal to the people that he promised programmes to because he wouldn't sell me one. And I said, come on, Sideburns, here's the money. I'll pay you double. I just want a programme. And he wouldn't sell me one because he'd taken orders from people. And I said, oh, fair enough, in the end, So I still haven't got a programme from that game. So if anyone's got a programme from Torquay Palace in the League Cup and they don't want it, they can post it to me because I still haven't got it. And I went to the game.
And the other one, of course, yesterday was the Poppy tribute, of course, just before kickoff. I thought that was excellently observed by all the Palace faithful. Maybe one or two of the clowns at the back of the Southampton stand, and they were on social media today. The decent Southampton fans were on social media actually apologising for the clowns that were making a noise during the minute silence. But it was very good. I think Palace needs to be congratulated the way they took care of the Clive. Anyway, let's go. We've got some echo. Is it just me echoing? Let's say hello to a few people in the chat anyway. We've got Mike Howe. Good evening, sir. Thank you for your service. Phil Usher, where are my bloody cakes? Steve's out there. Mark Callaghan's out there. Ian, can you see any more comments in there?
John Paul Holden's there. He says, the late, great Sido, a brilliant bloke, always made the match day experience. So, yeah, absolutely. We echo those words, Paul. I think the fans that made the noise didn't realise they were coming into the ground, John CPFC says. So, yeah, I don't think anyone, Southampton aren't a nasty bunch. They wouldn't make a noise to interrupt a minute's silence. They were just coming into the ground. They didn't realise that what was going on. I think that was the story there. But yeah.
Well said. And let's go on to the Palace ladies. They had a long trip up to Durham today, and they had a fantastic win. It comes off the back of 3 recent defeats, 2 in the league and 1 in the cup. There's your lineup for you: Kitchen, Johnson, Everett, goal scorer Philby, Doran, Riley, Peplow, Gibbons, Blanchard, Gwyatt, and our little moles. So they came away from there. 44th minute goal from Anna Philby gave us all 3 points and celebrations. And if any of the ladies are actually listening to this or watching this, or Dean, if you're watching this, please put a message in the chat, because we'll ping you over a link and get you on Life and the Coach like you did last year. And that win, because we actually suffered a couple of league defeats recently, both of which I went to, takes us back up to 4th in the league. So good on you, girls. Okay, we're right behind you. We're supporting everything you do. And congratulations to Dean and all your staff. It was Rob Cranfield. I know Rob was there today, and apparently there was some issues after the game. Rob, could you please construct a little 2 or 3 lines in the chat, and I'll read it out for you. There was a bit of nastiness post-match from, I don't know if it was one of their fans or something like that, towards our ladies, not to be condoned, of course. So that was, stick out in the chat room, and Ian will happily read that out. So where should we go on to? So we've spoken about us. Let's go straight onto the game, shall we, Ian? So it was squeaky bum. Jim, touch and go. Good first half, poor second half. We can't get the consistency, which is what the manager keeps talking about in all his interviews, is consistency, and we can't get it. Game of 2 halves, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, complete opposite from the last 2 home games of a really good first half. And I don't think we were terrible in the second half, but we just let them into it. We gave the ball away a lot of stupid passes, which just sort of makes them look as if they're really on top. I mean, they had a few chances, and I think summing up the game, the best player on the park was our goalkeeper. And he got man of the match. And but at the end of the day, it's 3 points, and that's all we needed. You know, Southampton are a difficult side to play with. They're a big old side. They're very strong. They're quite sort of physical, as Will found out a few times. But I thought we handled them well. We let things go. We tend to sit back a bit. When we're 1-0 up, as opposed to when we're 1-0 down, second half we'd go at teams. I think we sort of like just gave them the impetus a little bit, and once they get a little bit going, our midfield can be a bit light, and I was quite pleased that he changed it about and brought a bit more defensive-minded players on. But the bottom line is we won. We got the 3 points, which was really important. Puts us in a nice position in the league. We could have them 20 points sort of by within the next week and a half, 2 weeks, which is what we always look at before Christmas. Can we get 20 points? Well, we're well in front of Christmas, so hopefully that'll carry on.
But also, Jim, we're not even halfway through the season. We're only about a third of the way through the season as well.
Yeah, we played 12 matches. We got 18. Yeah, so yeah, we're nowhere near it. We played quarter of the season or something. So
yeah,
it's I mean, we're a good side, but you just mentioned consistency, putting 90 minutes together. I think the biggest problem is that we've had ample chances in lots of games to score 2 and 3 goals. And all the time it's 1-0. It makes the fans get a bit jittery, which probably transfers onto the pitch. The players get a bit jittery. And that is our problem at the moment. We've had loads of chances to put the game to bed, and we don't do it. So we put more pressure on ourselves, and we start sort of getting a bit panicky and sitting back. So, but 3 points, that's the position we're in. I'm quite happy with that.
Absolutely right. Just go back to what I was saying about the girls just a minute ago. John Michael Ross put in the chat, at full time they went over and had talks with Dean and the girls, which they always do. And that's the credit to Dean and the whole team. They always come up to all the support with the Palace fans and have a good chat and laugh with them. I've actually seen some pictures of it as well. And the Durham goalkeeping coach had a right go at all the Palace fans, calling them names and wanting to fight. One of the fans was a father of one of the daughters playing for Palace. It's very bizarre. I heard some choice words were being exchanged. I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. Chris,
you wanted to say it's a gentleman's game then you thought, I can't say that.
I was not there. Chris, I want to talk to you about the formation, slightly unusual formation. Obviously, the big news pre-kickoff was no Czech Decore, of course, which came as a bit of a surprise because, again, Vieira said in his pre-match interview that there was no new injury concerns. Well, that he did that a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know which team that was against, and somebody was out. I think it was Mitchell was out, wasn't it? So here's your lineup: Guaita, Ward, Gihi, Anderson, Mitchell, Schlupp, Milivojevic, Eze, Elise, Edouard, and Zaha. Now, my understanding really was that was a 4-1-4-1 lineup, Chris. Have you played that before?
I can't recall. If we have, I can't recall it. And certainly Luca hasn't been getting in the first team much lately. So it was a bit of a concern. But I think the general consensus was Luke, now he wasn't on his 2018 form, but it was approaching that at least. So he's been a bit of a target for the Boo Boys this calendar year, hasn't he? But he had a solid game, not on the Decore level, but we got the 3 points, as Jim said, didn't we? So we're happy with that.
Ian, I thought Luca actually had a very solid game, and I wish all the anti-Luca people would just piss off and go and support Millwall, really. How do you think he played yesterday?
Yeah, I thought he played very, very well. I think it was particularly good on the back of last week's poor performance at Everton, when he was at fault really for the first goal, him and Mark Gahey, but he didn't play that well at all at Everton, and he must have taken that with him into the game, because you're right, we all expected Czech Decore's name to be on that team sheet, and when it wasn't, we saw that Luca was in the starting 11. We all sort of thought, oh dear, are you sure? This could be a bit of a disaster. But he proved us all wrong, and he played very, very well, I thought. Even offensively, he looked good. There were times, there was that occasion in the first half where Jeffrey Schlupp got free on the right-hand side, and he did brilliantly, Schluppy there. He lost his man. He got forward. He almost got to the byline. He looked up, and there were players in the box, but he pulled it back to Luca on the edge of the box, and his shot was, he couldn't fault his shot, really. It was a low, hard shot, just it got blocked. His free kick early doors wasn't on target, which you could criticise him for. But I thought offensively he looked okay. He linked the play well. He broke the play up when they were attacking. He protected the back four, and I thought he had a really good game. So well done, Luca.
And I'm glad you mentioned the link up, Jim. I'm coming to you because I want to ask you something here. Last week we were critical of the disconnect, if you like, between the back four and the offensive four, if you like, or five. And there was just this bloody great big hole in the middle of the park where Everton overran us. Whoever won the midfield battle won the game, is what I said. Okay, and as it proved to be the case. Yesterday, however, I thought it was the connect between all departments. In fact, Elise, Schlupp, Eze, Zaha linking up with Milivojevic and Edouard. I thought it was completely different. It was a different setup, obviously. Is that the reason why it was much better than last week?
Yeah, well, I think it was obvious last week that three midfield players, Luca, Eze and Elise, is never going to work away from home. You'll get away with it at home. But I felt sorry for Luca last week because he had two players that are not, one's not a midfield player and the other one is really a flair guy. So he was under pressure a lot against Everton. I mean, he didn't have a great game yesterday. I think he gave the ball away once in 90 minutes. And you're right. I just wish people, players give the ball away all the time. But when Luca gives the ball away at the moment, the fans are like, as you say, some of them are idiots. I don't even know why they go. Because if you one bad pass, they should go and watch Millwall or Wimbledon if they want to keep booing at somebody giving the ball away. But we needed to strengthen the middle of the park. And obviously he's put Michael Elise, who's unbelievable on the wing. He's fleet-footed. He goes past people so easy. And I think Schluppy coming in gave us a lot more defensive quality without sort of like stopping the flair players going forward. And I looked, you mentioned Ward-Prowse. I don't know why you haven't got him. And what a good player he is.
Oh, you'd want him in your own team. You only just said that. You'd want him in your team.
I was looking at Ward-Prowse yesterday, and they're talking about, there's lots of conjecture about who's going to get in the England squad and and what players are on the fringe. I look at him and I see him and I look at Eze, and they're a million miles apart in ability. The only thing, obviously, that Ward-Prowse has got better than him is he takes unbelievable free kicks. But if I'm taking a player to try and win the World Cup, I'm taking Eze well before I take Ward-Prowse. And I'm not the manager. But yes, so defensively, I thought with the strength we had and the shape of the team meant that we were a bit sounder and a bit stronger. And it gave Luca a little bit more help in the middle of the park.
No, and fantastic words. And ladies and gentlemen, you've given up your Sunday evening. Where else on the internet would you find the ledge that is Jim Cannon joining you for your evening? We are so lucky to have him, and the knowledge, of course. I wanted to talk. Yeah, let's do James. Ian, I was going to get you to do your analysis in a second, but before we do, Chris, Jim mentioned James Ward-Prowse. I mean, you would want him in your team any day of the week because
it's the classic one, isn't it? Everyone hates him.
You love to hate him, yeah.
I was trying to think who we've had over the years. Kevin Muscat. I'm going back a long time, but he was a dirty so and so. But you didn't mind having him in your team, probably. And that tough old team of even going back to Jim's time, Billy Gilbert. It's the tough cookie type players that you like to have, and Thorne and Young and all those guys. So. Yeah, we've just got to accept it. But what I am happy about is he had a quiet game yesterday. So he's done some damage to us in recent years, but not yesterday.
And there's none of the internet stuff about being in a Wilf in his pocket and all the rest of this time. Ian, over to you, mate.
Yeah, I mean, we've already said, haven't we, that it was a much better first half than second half. And I was really pleased the way we started yesterday. Even, right at the beginning, we started on the front foot. I mean, they did attack us a couple of times. And I think we talked about Luca already and how well he's played. And Fergus Tidd has said in the chat that Luca cleared off the line in the early minutes. Now, I missed that, but if he did, that's a great contribution. I think Wilf was kicked all game. They targeted him, didn't they? Their number 4, what was he called? I can't remember now. I did write it down. But he was a dirty guy. Yeah, and he fouled Wilf really. He went through Wilf, and they both got booked because I think Wilf's reaction was he got up and he's sort of stomping around a little bit, and I think he was really unlucky to get booked. And he was in disbelief, wasn't he? He was like pleading with the ref. Why are you booking me? When he was the one that was fouled, and then someone else went through him afterwards. And I thought, my goodness, Wilf, just do not react. Please do not react. We know what he's like. And then the Southampton fans, the only time I did hear them sing, apart from their win the Saints, was, he's going to cry in a minute. They love doing all that, don't they? Because they love to hate him in the same as we love to hate Ward-Prowse, of course. I thought the first half was dominated by Eze's chances. I think he must have had about 4 or 5 shots, but only one on target, I think. The one on target was a really good, well-worked move. And the keeper tipped it around the post. But he kept dragging the shots to the left. And I think if he can just open his body up a bit more and almost like put it in the top right-hand corner or aim for that, then he's got a better chance of hitting the target. Well, I watched them in a pre-match when the forwards are warming up. And they don't score every time, do they? But they know where that goal is. And obviously it must be a lot harder in a game situation. But I was frustrated by Eze, the fact that he didn't hit the target enough. And I think that's part of his game he's clearly got to work on. We spoke pre-show, Chris and I, about XG. And what were the stats again, Chris, to give my voice a rest about XG?
So, Palace 0.69 and Southampton close to 1.5. So in theory, dominated us. I thought it was pretty even, all said and done. I was expecting somewhere near two goals each on the XG, given both keepers had to do some smart saves. And yet XG says it should have been a clear win for Southampton. Yeah,
so if you understand how XG works, then maybe say in the chat and enlighten us, because we were bemused by the XG stat yesterday. They had a chance. Shay Adams got away. He did ever so well. He hit the post, but he was offside. It was called back. Now, I don't know about you, but this frustrates the hell out of me when I'm watching the game. If he's offside, flag he's offside. This rule about play on, it's only a matter of time before somebody is going to get hurt badly when they needn't get hurt. When someone's offside, flag the offside. I think it was fairly clearly off, I thought at the time. So that was a little bit of a scare. And then we score a goal that was ruled out. And again, it was marginal. But this time the flag did go up. And I didn't think it was much different to how far offside Che Adams was up the other end. I don't know what you guys felt, but at least he runs in from the right. He wasn't offside to begin with. It was only when the flick on came that he was marginally offside, plays it through to Edouard. Great goal, but ruled out straight away. What did you think about that one, guys? Jim, what were your thoughts about that?
Marginal. Like, are you talking about the offside or the referee?
Our goal that was ruled out for offside. Excuse me.
I don't know. I looked at it. I looked at it back on the replay, and to me, it looked level. But you don't always see the right angle.
But in real time in the ground, did you think it was a good goal? And we were always celebrating where we were.
Yeah. Well, I actually did. But I saw the referee, the linesman, right away, so I knew it was offside because he just flagged.
I guess so. And then, the pressure mounted and, we had chances. And then we did get the goal. Really well worked goal down the left. Wilf wins the ball. I think he robbed one of their players, picked his pocket, played Mitchell through on the left. I read an article in The Athletic this week about the fact that Mitchell will never be a wing-back. I disagree with that. And he proved it here. Where he got way on the left, cross in, Edouard gets on the end of it, does what he does best. And there they are celebrating together. And that was 1-0. And that's all we deserved, more than we deserved. or rather, we deserved more. We could have had 2 or 3, couldn't we, in the first half? We go in 1-0 up. And frankly, I think Patrick Vieira said we should have scored more goals in the first half. But, give my voice a rest. Go to someone else, Nick, because I'm losing it.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm going to come. I just want to go back to a couple of points in the chat. You might want to give yourself a mute there for a minute, mate, while you're choking. It's Jim, just to let you know, Nigel's done, our stat boy, Nigel, in the background, has actually said after 12 points is exactly the same position as we were last year. So obviously we go on for that. And then Ian was talking about the linesman. My beef yesterday, and Jim, you may think I'm being sad here, but I actually thought about you during the game, just in the first half. And if we had planned this pre-production, I would have actually played in your clip that you said live on air here last year about the referees. It's the funniest clip on the history of Red and Blue Review. Ladies and gentlemen, if you out in Facebook land, and thank you for all of you that's joined us out there, welcome. If you get 5 minutes, go onto YouTube and find the Jim Cannon clip talking about referees. It's the best bit of visual that we've ever had on the show. I'm telling you now. I laughed for days after it. And I thought about Jim during the game yesterday because I thought it wasn't the linesman having a nightmare. I thought the referee in the first half was shit. The second half, I won't swear again, I promise. I thought he was really poor. The thing with the Zaha booking is Zaha getting beaten up by. So they're all doing it, okay? As Mark Callahan, even Mark was saying in the chat, there's no point having linesmen. What is the point? What do they do now? Jim mentioned about the goal that was offside. He saw the linesman put his flag up. Now, this is how I saw it from the Homesdale. The ball's in the back of the net. We're celebrating. I did a quick glance over, looked at the linesman who hadn't put his flag up. I take issue with what you said, boys. At that point, as the ball hit the back of the net, he had not put his flag up. When they start celebrating, then he raises his flag.
Really? Is that okay? Is that right?
I did it on purpose to the point where the guys that I was standing next to, I actually said, I checked the linesman, he didn't have his flag up, and then he put his flag up. And what is the point in the linesman? Chris, you were there yesterday. How did you see it?
I didn't see it, and I'll tell you why. I was at the back of the Arthur, so the only time I knew it wasn't a goal was then eventually, 3-4 seconds in, watching Edouard's reaction. So I couldn't see the linesman at any point. I was in the very back row of the Arthur, and everyone stood. So yeah, so it was actually Edouard's reaction that told me. So
if you watch Edouard,
all your points about that are correct. What do the linesmen do now? And probably linesmen are asking that of themselves as well, that they're being undermined, aren't they, with the way the rules are? They used to be an integral part of the game. Now they're almost for show, aren't they?
If you watched Edward as he put the ball in the net, he looked straight across and went like that, dropped his head. So the linesman had put the flag up as he was putting the ball in the back of the net.
Just
so
remind
I don't know what you were talking to your mate. You just said, so you probably never saw it.
I know who you were talking to. You were talking to your mate sitting next to you. Tell me,
Elise was the one that was offside, not Edward though. So
no.
Edward can't have possibly seen that Elise was off.
No,
he must have thought it was a good goal. I mean, he came from behind the play to link up.
Jim, for the benefit of those in the Facebook land that didn't see it, just a gentle reminder of your views on the modern day referee and all referees.
Well, I can't remember it word for word, but from the minute I started playing at Palace, I thought they were all wankers. Nothing has ever changed to make me change my mind.
That's 50 years.
Lucy, you must clip that for the end of season show. You've got.
I think the refereeing this season has got worse, and I think VAR is causing all the problems.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a moment, shall we? Because it's really important. Do you think referees, Jim? Do you think they have? They're hiding behind their responsibilities. They don't have to make the decisions anymore because VAR will do it for them.
Yeah. Well, it's probably a little bit better this year, but last season they wouldn't even go to the screens, would they? Because everybody was screaming out. But why isn't the referee? There was a screen there for the last couple of seasons, and the referees would not walk towards that screen to have a go. Then I thought they were opting out. They were like blaming other people. They'd go home on a Saturday night. VAR gets the blame. This year, and probably a bit last season, they started going towards the screens and having a look. But they're still coming up with some hopeless decisions. I mean, even VAR is not getting it right. I mean, there's been some horrendous mistakes, and that's half a dozen guys sitting in some room watching the TV, 100 different clips, and the referee sort of looking at a screen. So I think they're copping out a bit. Yeah, it's an easier job for them now because they can blame VAR.
Yeah, they know that someone else is going to correct them if they get it wrong, which I don't like, you know. But they were going to the screens last season as well. But VAR checking club badge. Thanks for that, Ferg. They do that. They check the club badge. Oh, we better check that one. It's top six side. Guys, what about the Elise penalty appeal in the first half? I didn't mention that earlier. But would VAR have checked that? Because we thought it was a penalty. Elise thought it was a penalty. It looked like it when they played it back. What are your thoughts on that one?
I'll go first on that. Again, Ben, I'm looking at the other end of the pitch, and I did have my glasses on. It was Lucy's words. From where I was at the far end, at the Homestead end, okay, he went over slower than Leaning Tower of Pisa. It was a bit embarrassing. I think it was embarrassing. I mean, I think he was clipped, okay, but the way he went over is what influenced the referee's decision. And I was just interested listening to you guys talking about the referee, actually. The one thing that's different this year about for the previous, 5, maybe 10 years, is they're all no marks. I've never heard of these referees. I mean, you had Atkinson and John Moss and all these names were regulars within the Premier League. These people, I don't even know who the referee was yesterday, but I certainly never.
Salisbury, wasn't it? Salisbury.
Who? That's my point. That's exactly my point. I've never heard of him.
He's one of the new ones.
And is that an influence on what's the poor standard of refereeing in the Premier League? These guys are coming in. Criss, your thoughts?
No, it's a good point. And do you know something? And I kind of put 2 and 2 together, what Jim said, and then you. I think partly because for 3 years now, it's VAR this, VAR that. So VAR is getting the blame, if you like, rather than the referee's name. So some of these refs have been around 2 or 3 years, but because the fury is aimed at video refs rather than the individual ref, maybe that some of them have been going under the radar. And there have been some new refs, haven't there, as well, come through. But I think just because we're focusing on VAR, and I'll tell you something, a month from now, we're going to have the World Cup, and we will get even more annoyed because we're going to see VAR used properly, like we did in the Euros, like we did in the World Cup in 2018. And come January, we're going to be scratching our heads going, wait a minute, why can they get it right on the international game? And why can't the clowns in England not get it right?
And do we even have a representation going to Qatar from our referees association? I don't believe we do.
I think I heard on another podcast that possibly the guy who did the Chelsea game for us is the guy. It was someone who did a bad job for Palace recently.
England.
When you're absolutely rolling your eyes and it's like, oh my God, that guy's the best England's got. I think that. But yeah,
but they've got that Bobby Madley back, haven't they? Bobby Madley back. The guy that was they got rid of him 4 years ago because he made an inappropriate comment on social media.
Oh, all right, yeah, that's right.
And they brought him back. He refereed Brentford Wolves yesterday. You know, so they're probably short of referees in the Premier League. You know, so they've got people coming up through the ranks that probably aren't quite good enough. You know.
Darren England, for instance, we seem to get.
I mean, him all my life.
We seem to be the one that the newbies get thrown at. We had Tierney against Norwich. We had England against Newcastle in the space of a month last year. We seem to just get the rubbish thrown our way. We'll see.
Tony Quinn says it's Anthony Taylor who will be going to Qatar. Thank you, Tony.
Right. Thank you, Tony. Thank you for that. And again, not exactly a household name, although he has done a few Palace games. Do you want to cover the second half in?
Yeah, not really. No, it's strange, isn't it? Because as Jim said earlier, you know, in other games we've been better in the second half. And, you know, we're going 1-0 up, and we could have been 2 or 3. And in the second half, they came at us. You know, clearly they had words in their dressing room at half time, and they looked the better team in the second half. There was VAR did look at a Mark Gahey handball early on. Apparently, thank goodness I didn't know about that in the ground. And Vincente Guita made 3, I think, really top saves in that second half that kept us in the game. And we're if he doesn't save 2 of those, we lose 2-1, don't we? You know, it's as simple as that. On those chances, and they were good chances they had. They were really good chances that Southampton had. They even hit the post at one point. And then there was a Ward-Prowse corner that went really close. It went right across the box, through everyone, and missed the far post by about 6 inches or something. So we had chances as well, though. You know, we weren't as bad as maybe some people are making us out in the second half. Wilf had a chance on the left when he probably took too much time to get himself steadied, and the block came in. And then when Jordan Ayew came on, I thought he did great down the right-hand side. There were a couple of times where he won the ball and he got down the touchline and he got the ball across the box. You could argue that the second one of those, when Elise played him through and he got down and he looked up and he saw Wilf in the box and he tried to square it to him and it was blocked when he might have had a shot himself. But that's his lack of confidence, I think, in himself as a goal scorer. But he didn't do much wrong. So, you know, we had our chances as well. But, you know, we didn't add to our single goal. And it would be nice if we could get 2 or 3 and just be able to relax a little bit, as Righty said on Match of the Day last night. So, you know, at the end of the day, it was 3 points. It wasn't the prettiest of wins, but it was 3 points and it was a job well done in the end.
Chris, you wanted to make a point?
I'm reading the comments there. Yeah, apologies. I think I got the Paul Tierney name wrong, but whoever the Norwich ref was last year, that was Paul Tierney. Apparently, is our lucky ref. That's one of you viewers just said there. So I'll take it back on Tierney. There we go. That comment.
That one there. So yeah. Crystal Palace held on to a narrow victory, their 3rd consecutive home win of the season against tenacious Southampton at Selhurst Park. Odsonne Edouard provided the only goal when Wilfried Zaha nipped the ball away from Lanko and found Tyreek Mitchell, who cut back for a simple finish for Edouard. Palace now sit 10th in the table, while Southampton are 16th, 2 points off the relegation zone. Palace are unbeaten in 4 of their 6 home games so far this season. With this, the last in the front of the home crowd before the World Cup break. It's their first clean sheet of the season at Selhurst Park, and the first time since May 2018 that they've earned 3 successive home wins. All decent stats, so lots to be positive there. I must admit, I didn't realise the. Of course, we were. I mean, the celebrations after the game were lovely. I thought the crowd gave the team the right royal applause as they left the pitch. It was, it was great to watch. Anything else we need to add on the game there, boys?
Yeah, there was one stat that when they introduced it on Match of the Day, I think Gary Lineker said Palace and Southampton, no 2 teams in the Premier League have scored more points from losing positions. So who's going to dare to take the lead? Which is quite a stat, isn't it? Actually, both clubs.
Right, I suppose we better do some other bits and pieces, other little bits of business. Criss, let's talk about one more point very briefly. So when's the next one coming out? This side of Christmas?
No, with the way the fixtures are, it's not going to be before Christmas, but it'll be in January. Been very busy with work and these games getting cancelled. I did have Man United targeted at one point. Good job I didn't go for that, given the Queen's untimely death. But we'll see what the FA Cup gives us. But if not, it'll be somewhere in January that I'm looking at and get back on the streets. So
are you still looking for people to send you articles, write things for you?
Always looking for that. And I got some good stuff at the tail end of last year that is quite timeless. So I've already got a good body for the next issue. But just the stop-start nature of rail strikes and cancellations, it kind of just lost momentum a little bit. But always happy to receive articles. Contact me on the scroller there at One More Point One via Twitter. And I'll be happy to hear from you. And let's get it back up and running in 2023.
And how many issues have you done?
So the original run, 10-year run, was 60. We did a joint one with 5-year plan, then 3 in its own right. So issue 64 will be the next one.
I'm reading a message in the chat. Criss, I'd like to introduce you to Lindsay Dawn from the Crystal Palace Disabled Supporters Association.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
She is actually asking you a question in the chat, Criss.
Would love to, Lindsay.
Lindsay, the answer is yes, please.
Gave the women's team a good write-up in the last issue, and really want to give all the different aspects of the club a write-up. So be delighted, Lindsay Dawn.
You two get in touch with Dawn. Can you put your Twitter handle in the chat so Criss can see it, and then we can get you two guys together. I think it's really important, bringing all different factions within the Palace community together, and that's what we want to do here on the Red and Blue Review. Right, up and coming fixtures, gentlemen.
Hang on a minute. Let's one more thing about Criss. Let's not let him off that lightly. And I know he'll want to mention this. Tell us a little bit about the book, Criss, because I saw on Twitter you were half joking for the Secret Santa present in the office.
Oh, right. Thank you for the opportunity. So is that the program? I didn't give this the best talk up last time I was on this show. I assumed everyone knew the basic premise, so the basic premise is for 10 years around One More Point. One of the original fanzines, I was inspired by Eagle Eye, the original, 10-year run, 1993 to 2003. And this covers the first 3 years of that. So 94 to 96 ends with Claridge's goal at Wembley. Ouch. But lots of entertainment. The fact that fanzines were the go-to for the media before there was an internet. And this is what it's about. Running a magazine, old school, paper, scissors, glue, up till 3 a.m, getting it printed, and then standing there in the rain, risking arrest and all the rest of it. That's what the book's about. And for Secret Santa, it's priced at $9.99, so it stays under the £10 budget for these things. You can get it off Amazon or contact me. I've got a few copies up there for sale, so you can buy it off me direct as well if you don't want to give Jeff Bezos your money.
But I love the title. Because you must have been asked that so many times.
Well, it was the only title. It was the working title, if you like. And I said, right, this is what's a better name? People going, you've got the perfect name already. You don't need a one. And is that the program's second leg? I might as well announce it now. That will be coming out in 2023. So that will complete the story from 96 through the Goldberg debacle, through administration, through the Grim Reaper protest march, and up to Simon Jordan's time. So that will be coming out next year. Can't give you which month. Got a lot going on, but it will happen next year.
And Rob Cranfield saying in the chat, Criss is the new Sido.
I just can't grow the sides, unfortunately. Boyish growth when it comes to that.
Right, Jim, I'm coming to you. 3 games coming up in very quick succession: 6th, 9th, and 12th of November. 2 league games, 1 League Cup game, all away from home. There they are, as if by magic. Anyone would think we actually have a production team on this program. Oh my God! There you go, Jim. I want to talk to you about the 2 league games particularly. Did you see the West Ham game this afternoon?
Yeah, I did see it, and I thought they were extremely unlucky. I mean, if they'd have won that game 4-1, you wouldn't have been surprised. De Gea was just unbelievable. They looked a good side, actually, so we've got our work cut out at the weekend.
Okay, and equally, I want to talk and ask you about the Forest game, and we'll do the Newcastle game that's in the middle of them in a minute.
Well, I mean, every time you see Forest, they look a good side. And obviously, a great result last week beating Liverpool, but come unstuck again against Arsenal. So it's, I don't know. I suppose if you're looking at the 2 games, if we're going to pick up anything, I can imagine us getting a point at West Ham, especially if we play a more solid midfield with Elise wide on the right rather in the middle. And Forest, I would say we could win that game. So I'm looking for at least 3 points, which means 1 win. I would say 4, but that might be a bit greedy, 2 away games. But they're 2 games that they're not ones that you'd say, well, we won't get nothing out of them. I think as fans, we'd expect to get something out of both of them games.
Right, and anyone would think we produced, because you've actually already gone into my next question. Just quickly touch on the Newcastle in the League Cup. Do you think we'll win that? And I want to talk to you about the formation for those 2 league games in a second.
No, and the way the season's going and the amount of games we're going to have after the new year, I'd rather stay in the FA Cup than the League Cup. But at Newcastle, they're flying at the moment, so that's going to be a difficult game. So it's not as important as the 2 league games.
So let's work on the premise that Decore is fit and ready for the 2 away games, West Ham and Forest. Jim, how do we set up against yesterday? I mean, yesterday's home performance. Obviously, these are 2 away league games. What do you do differently to set up? And you were talking about packing the midfield.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't play. We play Everton. We played 4-3-3. I wouldn't play that. I would go with much the same shape as he had yesterday. I mean, I wouldn't pack the midfield as such, but I would certainly. I don't know if Decore apparently wouldn't have played against Everton anyway, even though he was suspended because he was injured. So obviously, if he comes back, you would normally say Luca would come out and he'd keep Schluppy in there. But the way Luca played yesterday, he might well keep him in there with Decore as well. So as long as we don't play Elise and Eze in the middle of a 3 or with 3 in the middle, then I think we'll be all right. But we've got to be a bit more defensive minded, even against Nottingham Forest. A few years ago, we were only winning games away from home because we were defending very good and then breaking very quick. This year, we're the total opposite. We're not doing so well away from home, but I think the fans would rather see us win home games on a regular basis because 20-odd thousand come to see that game as opposed to a few thousand away. But yeah, I think he'll keep much the same shape. I'll be very surprised if he goes with 3 in the middle for these 2 games. So we'll definitely have 4, maybe 5, 1 playing a little bit deeper, or even 1 even in front. Play 1, 3, 1, 1. So he's got a few options, but he's certainly got to pack the midfield a little bit more.
4-4-2 then?
More or less, yeah. Whatever way you look at it.
I miss Rob's lineup. Rob just put a midfield. Lucy, can you put his lineup back up again? I missed what he said. I think it was Elise. No, she's not there. Ian, talk to me about the lineup for the West Ham game. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think having seen Luca play so well yesterday, and if Cheikh Doucouré is fit, I do think we need to do something about the midfield because we don't want a repeat of Everton. I think you look at the two away games before that, Leicester and Newcastle, both goalless draws. We were fortunate not to concede in both of those games, I thought. So on that basis, we could have easily lost both of those games. So on that basis, we've got to do something different, I think, away from home. So we haven't played two defensive midfielders this season together. But I think Cheikh Doucouré and Luka Milivojevic could well be the answer. I think it will be those two. I don't think it'll be Hughes. He hasn't played enough minutes. But it'll be interesting. And then who's he going to drop out? Probably Schlupp, if Doucouré comes in for Schlupp, say. Because I think Elise will keep his place. I think Eze will keep his place. Although, again, that's an interesting one because Eze really, he is he's a flair player, isn't he? And you could argue that it's a bit of a luxury at times. He can go missing in games. And I think that's why he's been hauled off a couple of times, because, he's just not been in the game enough when we've been without the ball. So it'll be an interesting lineup and selection. He's got some thinking to do, Patrick Vieira, before next Sunday. And I can't remember a time, must have been occasions where we've played 3 away games in 7 days. So, it's going to be pretty tough on the players. Lots of travelling. Thankfully, one of them's in London. But, you go up to Newcastle, presumably they'll come back again before they go back up to Nottingham. So I know that a few people will be making a few days of it, I'm sure, in the North East and the East Midlands. But
I'm glad you said that because I was just going to ask Chris. Chris is local to you. You going to Newcastle away?
Yes, that's one of the few times it shouldn't be too much hassle getting a ticket. So the trick is if I can book a work appointment, get a sales appointment in and around Newcastle that afternoon and position myself, it should be an easy one to get to. So if anyone here needs an electric vehicle charger in the North East, I'll come and see you that day.
So actually, Brian's just made a good point. Do you think Will Hughes will make an appearance at Newcastle, Chris? Would you change anything from what Jim and Ian just said?
I saw a stat today, actually. The record with Hughes in the team, and I know there's an element of, depends who you play, but you compare him in the team with him not in the team over the last year and a half, and we've considerably better record with him in the team. So, there's certainly a case that he needs to be in the mix. I'm seeing plenty of comments flying down here in the corner. You can see a case for most of them. We have got not a massive squad. Certain areas we're lacking in depth, but we've got a lot of upfront options, or certainly midfield and attacking options. It's nice that we can at least have conversations and we're not stuck with the same first 11. That there are options. Yeah. And just one thing, we are going to beat Newcastle. Just a gut feeling on that. I'm not so sure about the league game and maybe even penalties, but I've just got a good feeling on that one.
Of course, they'll rotate their squad as well. They won't be playing their first team in that game. Your likes of Almiron, up front, Wilson, and Trippier, they might not even be playing against us in that game.
I think it's going to be very interesting. I mean, I think Jim's made a good point that you know what, we need to be out of that League Cup because it's one game that we don't need to be one competition we don't need to be worried so much about. I mean, arguably, the argument to that, of course, is it's one cup that you could potentially win. One thing, we want a bit of silverware, but it's a tough draw. It's a tough draw away at St James's, and I think that'll be. I think you're right. You boys are right. They'll bring in some of the maybe a couple of the under 23s for that. Will Hughes, the fringe players, if you like. I'm glad to see he's bringing some of the kids onto the bench. Who was it on there yesterday? Was it Wells Morrison who was on the bench yesterday? And they're getting first team experience, and I think it's very well worthwhile. Just moving on a little bit, ladies and gentlemen, out in Facebook land, we've only got a few minutes left to go. Don't forget to enter our World Cup Predictions League. There are still some spaces left. I don't know. Actually, I know Ian was talking about single digits now. So if you want to be involved in the World Cup Prediction League, just put your email address into the chat, as the guys did last week. Ian Lyons will pick them up tomorrow. Ping you an email, and it's very simple. All you need to do is you'll be sent your first set of fixtures for the World Cup to make your predictions on the weekend of the 13th of November, and you'll have a week to submit them back to us. Simply follow the instructions on the email. It's a really very simple procedure. You'll get a joining email from Ian. You then pay your £20 entrance fee to come on board. You're then invited into the group chat, and it's really transparent. You can see everybody else's results. You can see that Nick Philpott will be bottom of the league, as he always is. Those of you out in the Facebook land have done it, please big it up in the chat. It's really worthwhile. It's a bit of fun, bit of banter, okay, and lots of piss taking in my directions. And also, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, you can find us anywhere on YouTube. After the show, immediately after the show, it's available as a podcast, and you can view again. All you got to do is ask your smart speaker to play the latest Red and Blue Review podcast. It's there for you all today. And also our entire back catalogue is there for you to have a play with. What else we got to cover in? I can't remember. Is there anything else that we got to do? I think we're there, aren't we? Probably.
Lindsay has reminded everybody that the DSA party is on Saturday, the 19th of November in Inspironi's. And so all are welcome. There we are, the DSA social event, not party. 19th of November, Inspironi's, Sellers Park, 7 p.m, all invited. No football that day, of course. So raffle, quiz and food. What's not to like? I have to send my apologies because it's my birthday and I've got other plans. But otherwise, get yourself down there, you know.
76 days this year, isn't it, him?
Say again?
76 this year, isn't it?
Yeah, I look good on it, don't I?
Yeah, not bad. Jim, I trust you're not the guest speaker at Lindsay's event for the DSA?
Actually, I was just reading that and it said guest speaker raffle, and I thought, well, that's a weird name for a guest speaker. And then I see the little comma.
Do you know the weirdest thing happened to me at Sellers Park this afternoon? All the people that stand around me, you know what we were saying to each other at the end of the game?
No.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Merry Christmas. Because we won't see each other before Christmas. And it's just bizarre.
Yeah, no, I said that in Spironi's when I finished my little chat. See you all after Christmas. Ridiculous.
See you on Boxing Day.
Yeah.
And all of you out in Facebook land, before we go, please put in your predictions for the West Ham game. I think out of the 3 games, that will be the toughest. Obviously, we've much discussed about the Newcastle game. There won't be the first team. So what's your predictions? Right, coming in. Ian, your prediction for the West Ham game?
I will go for 1-1.
Jim?
West Ham 1-0.
Oh, both going for a draw, right? Okay.
I feel bad now because we've both gone 1-0. So I'll go a bit slightly different. 0-0. We seem to be pretty good at getting 0-0s away. We're getting a point though, for sure.
They're all going for a draw. Ladies and gentlemen, I know this is going against the grain of Nick Philpott because I don't normally do this. I'm normally the most pessimist Palace fan that's out there. But I'm going to go with a sneaky little 1-0 win. I don't, it might happen.
You're right.
0-1 to Crystal Palace, and it's not what I would normally do. I would normally be a little bit more conservative and go with a draw or even predict a loss, but I'm actually going to go with a 1-0 win. Boys, that's it for the show. We've done it again. So next week, ladies and gentlemen, the show will be on Monday evening, hosted by Ian Noble, joined by Jim Cannon and a couple of others. Lucy, who's producing this evening. Oh, a couple of little things. Lucy, thank you very much for producing this evening. Nigel, I hope you're enjoying your holiday in Cyprus, and thank you for all the work you've done. Very big up to Tom Clark Samuel, who runs our Instagram page. Lots of hard work. He's working for us every single day. It's all unpaid. It's all voluntary. It's all for the love of the club, and we thank you on it. Ladies and gentlemen, and Facebook land, no more home games before Fulham, and I'll only be, hopefully, I'll be in Speroni's bar for the Fulham game, the old fella. So that'll be the next time I see any of you lot. But we'll be back in next Monday with a live show. Join Ian and the team then. On behalf of myself, Nick, and everybody else on the Red and Blue Review, please take care. Stay safe. Thanks, guys, for everything tonight. See you soon. Good night, everyone.
See ya.
Good night.